Good morning and welcome to 3 Minutes on Markets and Money. What should we be investing in now? Maybe that's the question we need to be talking about. Yesterday, we talked about the fact that we have this money flow sell signal in place, and that doesn't suggest that we're going to have a big correction in the markets. As we've been saying here, this likely means we're going to have this kind of consolidation move. In other words, markets really don't go much of anywhere. We saw this previously in both of these previous money flow sell signals. Markets just kind of chopped around sideways, didn't really do a whole lot. But again, that's kind of what to expect here, particularly when our weekly buy signals are still in place and money flows are still real strong. So there's still a lot of money being flowed into the market at this moment. Bullish expectations are very high. So again, not really expecting a big correction here, but a little bit more kind of slopping around, consolidation, those type of things. That's very normal. Now, one thing to watch is we are very close to triggering a MACD sell signal. That would confirm the money flow sell signal and may put more downward pressure on prices in the near term, at least for the next week or so. I got an email yesterday saying, Lance, you're always talking about the S&P. What about the NASDAQ? Right? Great question, right? That's really kind of that growth idea, right? You know, in the NASDAQ's been under a good bit of pressure here. Growth stocks, in particular, the big Momo stocks from last year, they've been under a lot of pressure. Companies like Palantir, Pinterest, Etsy, those have all been under a good bit of price pressure here lately, and those are primarily in the NASDAQ area. So again, what about the differential? Let's take a look at the NASDAQ, because on a daily basis, we see much the same picture. Very strong money flows here, very close to triggering a MACD. In fact, we're on a money flow sell signal, and market is just kind of really traveling here sideways. Now, that was after a very nice recovery from that kind of sell-off we had back in March when Archegos was blowing up and a lot of these Momo stocks were getting traded off. Nice recovery in those stocks. Again, not surprising, seeing a little bit of contraction here. But let's step out here longer term and look at that weekly sell signal as well on the NASDAQ, because it looks very much the same as the S&P. In fact, let's go back. Let's start with the S&P and say, look, here's that weekly buy signal that we've got in the S&P. It's moving up here, probably have another week or so, maybe 3 weeks of this money flow buy signal up. And then we're going to start talking about potentially a bigger correction sometime this summer, particularly as economic and earnings growth likely peak somewhere around June or July. That may be where we get a bigger correction in the S&P. But if money's coming out of the S&P, where would it go? Well, we may get an opportunity here to see a bigger acceleration of money moving back into growth stocks, because on a weekly basis now, after that correction that we had back earlier in March, we are just now triggering that money flow buy signal in the NASDAQ. That suggests maybe that over the course of the next few months, as we move into June and July, that we may see more rotation back into companies that can actually generate earnings growth in a weaker environment going forward into the end of this year. Again, this will all come back to what companies can actually grow earnings in an environment where maybe there are higher inflationary pressures impacting profit margins, higher wage cost impacting profit margins, and particularly even higher taxes. So again, kind of an interesting dichotomy between the NASDAQ and the S&P, just something to keep a watch on. In the near term though, price pressure, at least for now, at least for the next week or so, on prices as we go through this period of a money flow sell signal. So just keep a watch on that. We'll keep you updated right here on 3 Minutes of Markets and Money. I'm your host, Lance Roberts.